Welcome back to Inspire Great Health, your local trusted healthcare podcast. Today I have Chamber of Commerce President and CEO Dale Steenbergen with me today. How are you today, Dale?
I'm doing great.
Dale.
Hope everybody else is doing great.
Yes. I appreciate you joining me today. We're just going to be talking about our partnership with the Chamber of Commerce.
That would be great. Healthcare and chambers, a big topic across the nation right now, important partnerships. So be a good discussion, I think.
Yes, I think so as well. So go ahead, I've already introduced you, but go ahead and tell me a little bit about what your duties are at the Chamber.
Yeah, so I am President and CEO of the Cheyenne Chamber, so that means I am head of nothing. I have good employees that take care of everything, but seriously, I run the Chamber of Commerce. I work with a board of directors, volunteers from the community that graciously give their time to go through really big issues. I mean, as you guys are aware in healthcare, just through one Wyoming legislative session, you have many, many issues that are very, very important to healthcare. And healthcare ends up being a really important topic for chambers because we are all about workforce. If you look across the nation, workforce is an issue, and we find out that if you can lower the number of days you lose from people being sick or people having long-term struggles with disease, you can really help that. So my job is to be strategic about all of that and bring to the board, whether it be healthcare or otherwise, items of great importance that we need to weigh in on from the business community.
What would you describe our current relationship like? How do we help each other?
I would describe our current relationship as, well, your boss is my boss, right? So Tim Thornell, who is the CEO of Cheyenne Regional Medical Center, is the chairman of the board of directors. That is the beginning of our kind of partnership, is that my chairman is who I interact with more than anyone else. And he leads these group of board members that are trying to sit up and take a look at Cheyenne and the region, and even in some cases the nation, and how do we weigh in on that and be meaningful and make good decisions. And so we have a partnership that begins at a very basic level. And from there, over the years, we've worked on a lot of issues together. Generally for a chamber, hospitals and healthcare systems are very important because for a number of reasons. One is quality of life, right? Nobody wants to live where the healthcare system is not good, right? Nobody wants to live where you can't afford to have healthcare, right? So I think at the basis of that, and then you layer in the workforce issues and kind of the other things I mentioned, and so that means that we have to have a really strong partnership to be able to fix some very, very large problems. If you take a problem like uncompensated care that hospitals deal with, if you live in a state like Wyoming and you have a lot of uncompensated care, that's care that costs that everybody else has to pick up. And so how do you deal with that? How do you deal with that from the side of the chamber and the business community, and how do you deal with that from the hospital? And hopefully that answer has a common solution. We are unique in Cheyenne. We have a large military community. How does that interact? There's pressure on us all the time from the federal level to say, hey, man, we want to make sure that military families in your community have all the health care that they need. And that's pretty varied. So if you have a child with a particular health problem and you get stationed from San Antonio to Cheyenne, how are the systems going to work to make sure that child can be cared for? And we are lucky in Cheyenne that because of the partnerships and efforts we have put in over the years, we can deal with a lot of those. You don't have to go anywhere else. So I guess that's a really rambling answer to your
It's a great
question, but I hope it demonstrates that, you know, it goes far beyond just thinking about where do I go to get, you know, treated for a disease, or where do I go to get vaccinations. We have an entire microcosm of a community that has to make sure we solve problems, and the healthcare is a very, very significant part of that.
You kind of already touched on this, but why is it important for a hospital to be connected with its local business community?
Yeah, so I think we talked about why it's why we partner together is important, but I think this question has a little more depth to it, right? So I think a lot of times communities that don't succeed kind of have everybody running off doing their own thing, right? Not understanding, hey, the result of my action is going to have a downstream ripple, and we didn't really look to see if that ripple was negative or positive, or how it's going to affect them. One thing that has always been of interest to Chambers that is interesting related to healthcare is spousal employment, right? Mm-hmm. So doctor moves to Cheyenne, wife or husband, either one, they have lived with this person all through medical school. Maybe they've already started in on their career, but chances are you're generally talking about pretty smart people. You want your doctor to be a pretty smart person, right?
Yes.
Typically, doctor spouses are pretty smart people. So how do you offer that trailing spouse or the right kind of employment opportunity, or right kind of social activities that they would expect in a community, or kids and what they've expected in other communities? How do you bring that here? I was having an interesting conversation with the CEO of the Boston Chamber of Commerce. So if you think about Boston, I don't think there's probably another city in the world that graduates more physicians than Boston does,
right.
And all the medical research and everything surrounding that. But even he worries about this problem, right? Of how we not only have employment and provide opportunities for the person that we're trying to recruit, but we provide employment and opportunities for the people that are going to come with that person that recruit. And that becomes, that drives synergy for a whole discussion of how are we going to do economic and community development to make sure this is a community that people want to be in, that have the right opportunities for them. And I think that's just one piece of this, right? You have certainly the whole social aspects. You have, what am I used to? And for us here in Wyoming, right, we have challenge of, we don't have the most wonderful winters in the world, right?
Fact.
So how do we work together to mitigate some of these concerns for people that are going to move here? And certainly that doesn't just pertain to healthcare, but the healthcare community, certainly in a place like Wyoming, we constantly try to recruit healthcare providers all the time.
And digging into that a little bit deeper, how does our partnership support the quality of life in our region?
Yeah, so I don't know how you can have a good quality of life without a strong healthcare system, right? I think one of the things that under Tim's leadership, CRMC has done very well is they haven't sat in their ivory tower and expect that they're just going to look out and naturally know what's going on in the community and what needs might be there, right? So he has made it a very much a priority, not only for him as the CEO to set an example of that to get out in the community, find out what's going on, find out what people's needs are, but for his employees to do the same thing. And because of that, you start gaining a good view of what people are going to expect out of their healthcare system, right? And we've done some amazing things here that have made a huge difference. It's related, but it's kind of unrelated. It was several years back, and we had just opened the cancer center, and I had a lady sitting in my office, and she started crying. I mean, people just come to Chambers of Commerce. They understand it's kind of the community place, right, to come and talk about good things, bad things, whatever. This lady was talking about something good because she had a family member, it was her husband, who had cancer, and her experience with cancer had been with some parents that had lived here, and she was talking about the gruesome stress. She was driving down to Colorado to get this done, right, and constantly going out of town for health care. And she was just gushingly happy. She is older, right? And so that made a difference. But she's gushingly happy about the fact that I don't have to go somewhere else to get health care. I think additionally, the thing that really made an impact on me, and kudos to CRMC for this, is she just talked about what a kind and gracious experience she had while she was here with people from her own town. Mm-hmm. And that really moved her. And so, us being able to advance Cheyenne Regional Medical Center's capabilities really has our people, they are dealing with their neighbors, right? Yes. And it has a whole different feel to it than somebody somewhere far off that is running you through how I would work cattle on my ranch, right? Or maybe, and I shouldn't say that because I'm sure the folks working on that don't intend for it to be, but it's not the same as our kids go to school together. You treat folks different in that scenario. And so I think that kind of almost a neighborhood healthcare feel is something that Cheyenne Regional Medical Center has done an exceptional job with, and I know that you guys continue to work on this. So I think that's what you want for a partnership in a community out of healthcare, to have this realization that we are all on the same team, we're working together, our kids go to the same school, our spouses might work at the same location. You are more than just a number on a chart for us to look at. And now it's a digital screen and not a chart probably, but you're not just a number or a letter. You are truly a meaningful individual. And I do think Cheyenne Regional Medical Center has, since I have been chamber director in Cheyenne, has done a lot of meaningful work on that end. And it really makes a difference in the way people view their healthcare system.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you saying all those kind things. Our staff really do try, so we appreciate that.
Well, I'm a chamber director, so I never say it if I don't mean it, because right. I'll get I just know this from feedback, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure I know you guys do a lot of polling, and I work in politics a lot, so I take all polling with a little grain of salt, but I do think kind of what you feel in the community and what people are saying. I get a lot of feedback from that kind of thing, and that's where it comes from. And that is the best kind of praise you can get.
We've talked about meeting the needs and challenges of our community. How do we work together to better figure those out and see what the needs are and how we meet those needs?
And, I think that is really a tough question right now. Yes. We live in a very dynamic environment, not just in Cheyenne, across the country. Cheyenne lives in a tremendously dynamic environment right now. So we have data centers, which are a hot topic around the community, right? And I don't care how some people feel great about them, other people hate them, but it is change that we have to respond to nonetheless, right? Where you're going to have a pretty steep growth curve from that. We have got the Sentinel missile system that is coming at Warren Air Force Base, which is going to bring thousands of folks to this region. You know, how do you respond to that? I don't even know how you respond to that if you sell ice cream. Nevertheless, if you're trying to work on healthcare, right? And so I think we really have to stay engaged and have open conversations about expectations that people have of the healthcare system and the healthcare system of the community. But how do we respond to this growth, right? How do we work to keep healthcare costs in line while at the same time you have all this millions of dollars worth of equipment that we are gonna have to have somewhere in the community to respond to thousands of people hitting the community in the next few years. I think, you know, COVID also created some weird kind of situations where, you know, schools talking about vaccinations and people a lot more. I bet the emergency room use for I've got a cold really went up since COVID, right? That's probably dying down. But these cultural shifts we have, they impact not just healthcare, but all businesses. And so, you know, in Cheyenne, healthcare is one of the largest employers in the community, right? So if you're one of the largest employers in the community and all this change is coming at us, how do we respond to that? We need the hospital healthcare community to be engaged in those conversations and tell us and help advise us on planning our community for the future, so that we can deal with these issues. And I think it's a difficult task, right? I mean, anybody who has to deal with customers has a challenge, right? I think in the environment moving forward. If you deal with healthcare, you're dealing with people in a lot of their worst moments in their life. So even people that were good customers yesterday, they might not be today because something is hurting or they're scared. And how do you set up for that? And how do we partner to build resilience of health into our community, right? I know you guys make a living by treating sick people, but you got plenty of sick people to treat, right? So it's in your interest to help us figure out resiliency in the community for health, about, you know, everything from what kids eat before they go to school to our, you know, guys my age exercising to, you know, what could I do in my 20s to make my ramp towards a healthy life, potential good. And so I think this is really what healthcare is, to me, is coming to, and CRMC is engaged in this a lot, is planning this future so that, you know, we live in a resilient, healthy community, and that's to all of our benefits, but it takes work.
So moving on a little bit from healthcare, can you help me explain how a Chamber of Commerce helps instill a sense of community in Cheyenne?
You know, in the political environment nowadays, some days we instill a sense of community. I would just say that, you know, I work with chambers all over the nation, and one of the fascinating things about chambers is that something that local communities own, even people that aren't members, but believe that the Chamber of Commerce is their local voice to work for their betterment. So I think certainly our chamber works very hard to let people know what exists in their community, right? So one of the things that's interesting is that we have a fairly large Air Force base here for a community this size. I don't think it's so prevalent now, but when I first moved to Cheyenne, there were tons of people that had no idea what the Air Force base even did. Yeah. And one of the first, and I use that as or that we had a National Guard unit that deployed all over the world and were medevacs. So while the war in Iraq was going on, they were flying people off the front lines. Or that we had or even what, they knew there was a refinery here, but didn't even know what they did. And so one of our goals over the years has kind of been to educate the community. Here's what else is in your community, right? Here's what other folks are worried about or they are seeing. Because when you start seeing problems from another's point of view, it really helps you condense a community to everybody kind of being on the same page, right?
Right.
And our approach is that we believe that Cheyenne, we believe that this region, certainly not just Cheyenne, we see our region. While everybody sees the Colorado line, the businesses don't, right? Mm-hmm. So the folks in Wellington depend deeply on Cheyenne. People in Kimball, Nebraska depend deeply on Cheyenne. People in Chugwater and Wheatland and Torrington depend deeply on Cheyenne. So how do we create this synergy that they see this as their community, right? Mm-hmm. They probably see it as their community from going to buy groceries, but they don't see it as a community, that we are in a symbiotic region and we have got to be talking about problems and coming up with solutions together. And I do think that idea of expanding the tent to bring people together to solve problems gets to be pretty important, and to build an understanding of this is how the military community sees living in Cheyenne, right? Or this is how a rancher's wife from Bushnell, Nebraska that comes here for groceries, this is how she sees Cheyenne, right? When we can expand that tent and grow that community with an understanding of each other, then certainly we believe that's the best way to move the community forward.
And we're all about moving that community forward.
That is correct.
Yes.
You know, that I think from the Chamber's view, I think it is also important to say that once we feel like that we have built those coalitions pretty well, but we are going to take what we believe those coalitions have told us in a very strong manner to government, right? I think not every chamber does that, but a lot of good chambers do that. As part of our goal is to go express those concerns to government and make sure that they are providing that community that the people want, and not necessarily that they read from somebody that mailed them something from the East Coast.
Is there anything else that I haven't asked that you'd like to touch on?
I guess I would just like to say thank you to CRMC and all the efforts that you guys have made over the years to really change the environment. Since I've been here, I came to Cheyenne in 2007, and I would say between 2007 and now, there is just a total difference in the way that CRMC interacts with the community. I mean, they do it in simple ways. I don't hardly go to a meeting where there isn't somebody volunteering time from CRMC at that meeting, whether that be something simple like putting a community festival together or helping with the Christmas parade or at a school event, but also very significant things when we are talking about expanding nuclear weapons in Wyoming, or having discussions about data centers or workforce or education, or 100 other big topics that take a lot of time and a lot of thinking. And so I think your willingness to integrate into the community over time has really made a huge difference. And it takes a team. And you guys are part of the team, and I deeply appreciate that. I know a lot of other organizations appreciate that too. So thank you very much for all you do for Cheyenne to make it a better place, far beyond the daunting task of healthcare that you guys take on as your primary role.
Well, I would echo that sentiment for you. Thank you for all that you do for our community as well. And if somebody is interested in getting more involved with the chamber, how would they do that?
Yeah, they can come by anytime. We're on the second floor of the depot, so
just stop on by.
Before you go to Fridays on the plaza, just drop in and certainly call us if you have questions. I mean, you're welcome to go to our website, and we're really easy to find, CheyenneChamber.org, and not only find out about the chamber, but find out about what's going on in your community and ways to engage. We take a lot of pride in being servant leaders at the chamber, and certainly we are pleased that healthcare is a big part of that for us. Oh, in closing, I would just say, make sure to tell my boss that I did a good job.
I will be sure. I'll tell him you did okay.
I don't want you to tell Tim I was late or anything. Tell him here I was spot on time and that I did an exceptional job for you.
This has been great. Thank you so much, Dale. I appreciate you joining me today.
Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Yes. And thank you for tuning in. We will see you next time.